Hey guys, what's up and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read this month. If this is content that you like, then be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every Wednesday and Friday. Alright, let's go ahead and get started on the video. This month I read a total of 6 books, which is a pretty good reading month in my opinion. I know some other booktubers, they read like 20 books a month and I'm like, how do you guys do it? How do you find time? Are you just reading like really thin, maybe graphic novels or something? Or I don't know. But I did read 6 books this month and I actually started a 7th book, but I think I'm going to include that in next month's video because I don't think by the time that I post this video, I will be very far into it. The first book that I read this month was 7 Days in June. Now this one follows the storyline of a love story between Eva and Shane, and both of them are writers. Eva is a fantasy erotica novelist and Shane writes fiction novels, and they met when they were younger, back when they were like in high school, and they had a crazy relationship that only lasted a week. It was a crazy week for them. Ever since then, they've basically been writing secretly to one another in their books over the course of the years that they've been apart, and they meet up again at a Black literary event, and that's kind of where things take off and unfold in their love story. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. Now, I did think that it was going to be more contemporary romance, just a really quick read, but there was a lot more to this book than that. There's a great love story in it that unfolds between Eva and Shane, but what I liked most about it was that it was really thought-provoking, and I loved how the character development happened, especially with Eva. I thought the arc that happened in her storyline was really great, and I thought the ending was really great for Eva. Now, this book hooked me literally from the very first opening paragraphs. It has one of the best opening chapters that I have read in so long. It was so funny, and it instantly made me like the character Eva so much. Now, there were some characters in this book that I really didn't like, which was her daughter and some of her friends like Cece. I didn't really jive well with them. There were a few things that I didn't really like about the book. I thought there was, and this is probably me nitpicking, but there was way too many pulp cultural references for my liking. I did think that the ending was a bit rushed. I really would have liked to seen it at least given like another chapter or two just to kind of see where the storyline went. I guess maybe I was just not wanting the story to end. And then something else that I didn't like in this book, which I've noticed that a lot of other books do this as well, so this isn't specific to this author or anything, but a lot of times when authors switch between characters, they never put it like above the chapter anymore. Like this is, like Eva's chapter, so it'll say like Eva above the chapter title or something like that. So that way you know whose story you're reading, because sometimes it would be a couple chapters in Eva and then randomly switch to Shane for like a chapter, and then randomly in like the middle of the book it would switch to her daughter, like her daughter had a chapter, and it was like when previously her daughter didn't have a chapter before that. So it just kind of throws you for this weird loop, and I really hate when authors do that. I wish they would put at the top of the page, or at the very beginning, like at the top where the chapter is supposed to be, who it is, because sometimes it's hard to figure out, and I feel like that's kind of the case with this one. Now, the next book, I thought that this one was going to be so good. It had the promise of being so good, and I was really looking forward to reading it because I liked her other book. This one fell flat for me, and that's Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. So this one is about a remote island, and 6 stunning 20-somethings are about to embark on a blissful, free-spirited journey, one filled with sun-drenched days and intoxicating nights. But The group is cut off from civilization, and it starts to feel like the island itself is closing in, sending them on a dangerous spiral. When one person goes missing and another turns up dead, the remaining friends wonder what dark currents lie beneath this impenetrable paradise. This one, I thought because of the synopsis it was going to be so much better than it was, and also the cover. I mean, it's just really, it's stunning. But this book is supposed to be a suspense novel. It's supposed to be for adults, but it really reads more like a young adult mystery novel than it does an adult suspense novel, and I really wanted to like it way more than I did. There was just such a bunch of random drama throughout it. It felt like there was like 2 or 3 curse words like every single page. None of the characters were likable in my opinion. Actually, the main girl, Lux, she just made some really stupid decisions, and one minute I found her to be like meek and timid, and then the next minute she was supposed to be this like badass chick, and like I don't know, I didn't find her to be either one of those things. And so the ending of the book that's supposed to be kind of the big twist at the end and everything like that, it didn't really jive with her character, I felt like, because prior to that she would just like flip-flop in her feelings. She wasn't a consistent character, but not in a we can't trust this protagonist kind of way. She just was literally written to be so flip-floppy. Also, another thing that, and this might just be me nitpicking, is in the synopsis it literally compares this book to an Agatha Christie novel, and no, just no. There's no comparison to Agatha Christie with this book. This is child's play compared to an Agatha Christie novel. Her books are actually suspenseful, well thought out, the characters are well developed. This is not like that at all. It's the exact opposite in my opinion, unfortunately. I don't really recommend this one at all. So the next book that I read, I actually picked up from the library. So if you saw my library haul, you probably won't be surprised by this one. And I'm glad that I read that one next because it put me in a better mood than Reckless Girls did. And that is An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekanon. And this one is a true psychological thriller. It's about a woman named Jessica who's looking to earn some really easy cash, so she becomes part of a psychological study on morality. But it's soon revealed that the study moves from the exam room to the real world, and the line between what is real and what is happening in the doctor's study becomes blurred. Now, this book is interesting because it's told through Jessica's point of view, and it's also told through Dr. Shields, who's a psychologist, her point of view. So I really liked that they put both of their perspectives in the book, and I also really enjoyed that they made Dr. Shields' perspective told in second person instead of first person. This one had so many twists and turns. I was on the edge of my seat wondering what was happening next, and the story moved really well. I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I did dock half a star because I didn't necessarily believe the ending of this one, just based off of the development of one of the characters and getting to know that character throughout the story. I didn't believe the ending that was given for that character, which maybe you'll agree with me if you've read this one, or if you do decide to pick this one out. I do really strongly recommend this one if you are a fan of psychological thrillers. This one does not disappoint. Now, this next book I was really surprised about. I really wanted to read it because it was very hyped up, and so like when I saw it at the library, I decided to pick this one up, and wow, this is a very popular book that I put it in my DNF pile. I did not finish this one, and that is The Book of Night by Holly Black. Now, I thought I've been trying to get more into fantasy novels. I used to be really big into them in high school and when I graduated high school, and then I just stopped reading them. There wasn't too many that really caught my interest or were well written or the style that I liked. And so I've been on a journey to try and find a really good fantasy novel, one that's going to suck me back into the genre. And I thought for a second that maybe this one was going to be it because everyone really likes Holly Black books. So I picked this one up and whew, okay, so this one is about a woman named Charlie, and in her world, shadows can be changed and altered for like entertainment purposes, and you can cosmetically change their appearance. And so that premise right there sounds so cool. I've never read a book about shadow people before. You can also alter someone's feelings and emotions through their shadows, but it has a cost. And your shadow is like a second self. It holds all of your secrets and everything that you want to keep hidden from the world. And then so there's this character, Charlie, who is a con artist, and she's working as a bartender. She's trying to distance herself from that world, and then she basically gets swept back into it. Now, the reason I did not finish this book was it was so boring. I got about, I think, 7 or 8 chapters in, and it was just so boring. And the first chapter alone, it didn't intrigue me. Nothing about it really pulled me into the story. There was way too many characters in this book. Especially in the first chapter, there was so many that were introduced. It was like, okay, who's who, who's what is going on in this book? And then this author does apparently something that I really, really hate, and that is we're told over and over again that she always chooses to do the wrong thing and that she's a criminal, but there's nothing to support that. It's just told to you over and over again, but it's never actually shown that she chooses to do the wrong thing, at least not in the chapters that I read. Now, I did read reviews online because I wanted to see if other people were having the same feelings that I were, and a lot of people said that it didn't pick up until the very, very, very end, like the very last few chapters. And honestly, I'm at the point where even if a book is supposed to be really, really great, especially the ending, if I don't like it, I will put it down and put it in my did not finish pile. And that's okay. I don't think every book needs to be read. And if I'm not jiving well with a book, it's okay to put it down and move on to a book that I do enjoy. And that's what I did in this instance. One of my friends here on YouTube, Allie Dawson, she actually reminded me that back in high school, we had read one of another series from Holly Black, and we actually didn't finish that one because neither one of us liked her writing style. I think it was called Tithe or something like that. It's about fairies, and I actually had forgotten that even happened and that I didn't like those books. And now I realize that I guess I don't really enjoy her writing style. So sadly, I don't think I'm going to pick up any more of her books. I know she has, I think The Cruel Prince is another one of her series, and that one is supposed to be really good. Let me know in the comments below if you think I should actually check out that book, because I'm not sure that I should. The next book that I read, also I got from the library, was The Lincoln Highway by Amora Towless. I feel like I've talked this book to death because I did a reading vlog about this book, so I won't go into too much details about it. This one is set in the 50s, and Emmett is being driven home by the warden of the prison that he was just released from, and unbeknownst to him, 2 of his friends from the prison have escaped, and they actually have hidden in the trunk of the warden's car. So they all meet at Emmett's house, and Emmett is now the sole caretaker to his younger brother because his father has just passed away and their house got foreclosed on. So they're Their dream is to move to a different state and try and restart their life. Now, the two characters who were prisoners and hid out in the trunk, Duchess and Wooly, they want to head to New York to get Wooly's inheritance and split it 3 ways between Emmett, Wooly, and Duchess. Emmett doesn't want to do this, so Duchess and Wooly end up stealing Emmett's car and going to New York with it. And so we go through this journey with Emmett and his brother and trying to find Duchess and Wooly to get the car back, and the story kind of unfolds. And this book, so first of all, it took me so long to read it, not just because of the sheer size of this book. I mean, this book is massive, which what I wanted to do for this book was to read it 100 pages at a time, so that way I could finish within a few days, about I think like 5 or 6 days. But that was not the case. I kept having to stop reading because I suffered through a week of migraines and headaches, and then I got an infection on top of that, and so I had been trying to deal with all of that. So the book took me so long to read, but that was okay with me because the book was just so beautifully told. I love all of the stories within the main story that were told, especially from the character Duchess. He was so funny. He had the best stories to tell about his life and the people that he's met, and this book really makes me want to read more of this author. I know he has a book called A Gentleman in Moscow, and that one also is really, really highly rated. So I am going to pick up that one, probably not for a while, unless my library has it, but I am going to check that one out. The only thing that I feel like I would have changed in this story is just the last 2 chapters. I would have just flip-flopped them. I felt like the book would have ended on a much happier note if he would have done that, if he would have flipped the two chapters. I mean, not that a book has to always end on a happy note, but it would have been really nice, I think, especially in the case of this book. Now, the last book that I read, I would say probably one of my most anticipated books that I wanted to read this year. And wow, did it disappoint me. I'm a little bit heartbroken about this one. Oh, it's The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Now, I've mentioned this several times on my channel. This is one of my favorite authors. I've loved pretty much every single one of her books, and I usually highly recommend them. That's not the case with this one. Oh, so this one follows a storyline of Hannah in the past and the present. The past is Hannah goes off to college and she becomes bunkmates with this girl named April, and they become best friends, and their circle of friends becomes a bit bigger with, I think, 4 other characters who are introduced in the story, and one of which is named Will. He's important because he shows up in the present storyline, but April ends up being murdered. And so then there's the present storyline where Hannah and Will are now married and expecting a child, and the person who was convicted of April's murder, a guy who worked on the campus, he was actually convicted because of testimony that Hannah had said during the trial, and he dies in jail. And the whole time he's in jail, he claims that he's innocent, and then with his death, Hannah becomes confused on whether or not did she actually see what happened? Is he the true murderer of April? First of all, the first 150 pages of this book were, 1, very boring, and 2, were so repetitive that you literally could have just condensed them down into 2 chapters. I don't know if she felt like the author felt like maybe she had to put out so many pages of the book, and so she just kept repeating the same things over and over again to kind of make the book longer. But honestly, yeah, the first quarter to maybe half of the book could have been summarized in 2 chapters or less. Also, Hannah was really, I didn't like her character. She was another one like the other book that I read. She was a flip-flopper. She would bury her head in the sand. I felt like a lot of things could have been avoided if she actually would have just made better choices. And honestly, it felt a little unbelievable to me, the storyline. I never felt like her and April were best friends. She kept saying that they were best friends, but when you're reading about what's happening in the past, it really doesn't feel like they're friends. And then in the present, when she's married to Will, she is a bit obsessive about her love for Will. Like, it kind of almost makes her sound a little bit crazy. And okay, I for one am crazy about my husband, yes, but it's just the way that it's worded. It's like she was obsessed with him in college, and then she was so lucky to have gotten him after, and that, it's just the way it's all worded. I just didn't really like that. So yeah, a lot of the friendships and the relationships in this book really seemed a bit fake to me. The ending, the twist in it was also a little bit predictable, I would say. Not all of it. There was a couple things that did surprise me about the twist at the end, but you know, about April's murder. But for the most part, I actually connected the dots of who the murderer was going to be before it was even mentioned. Overall, this book did disappoint me, and that truly breaks my heart. I'm really sad about that. I do still like her writing style, but this one just fell a bit flat for me. So those were the 6 books that I read this month. I did start a 7th book, which is called The Change by Kristen Miller, and I'm only about a quarter of the way through, and so far so good. I really like it. I'll be sure to update you guys maybe during a reading vlog or sometime throughout the next month, or at the end of the month when I do my monthly wrap up again. But let me know in the comments below if you're gonna check out any of these books, or if you have read any of them. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And be sure and subscribe to my channel, and you can follow me on all of my other social medias like Instagram and TikTok. I put more content out on those every month. And I hope that you guys have a beautiful day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.